everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today we're going to take a look at the new DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Origins Figure 3-pack containing figures of the Joker as the Red Hood, Copperhead, and an Unmasked Deathstroke. Now these figures come packaged in window box type packaging, same kind of design that we've seen with the previous Arkham Origins video game figures from DC Collectibles, that kind of cityscape background. You've got the Batman video game logo up at the top. You also have the Batman 75th anniversary logo up in the top left corner for this one, and then the names of the figures down below. On the back we have little thumbnail images for all three figures in the set, along with a little brief bio about the video game, and then we show thumbnail images of the other Arkham Origin video games or figures that have previously been released by DC Collectibles. And it tells us these figures were sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios. Okay, so let's get the figures open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging. Now, like we've often seen with these multi-packs that DC Collectibles releases, two of the figures in this set have essentially been previously released. The Joker and the Deathstroke figure. The Joker figure, this is pretty much the exact same figure as the previous Joker figure. It's just they've replaced the Joker head with this red hood and cape head. It's got some other minor differences which we'll go over in a minute, but the figure itself is basically the exact same figure as that Joker figure they previously released in the Arkham Origins line. And then the same goes for the Deathstroke figure. This is basically the same Deathstroke figure that we previously got on a single card. They've just replaced the masked head with an unmasked head. So the only real new figure in this set is the Copperhead figure, and this is a totally new figure, and that's the one we're primarily going to focus on for the purposes of this review, since we've looked at the Joker and Deathstroke figures in previous reviews. Again, I will go briefly over the minor differences in just a moment. Okay, so we'll start off looking at the Joker figure. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is basically the figure, the body of this figure is exactly the same as the previous Joker figure that was released in this line. The only difference is that we've got a new head, the red hood, and the cape which is attached to the head sculpt. Now there's no, Joker, head sculpt or anything under this hood or anything. It's just the head is just this red dome thing that you see him use in the video game, and it's just attached with a ball joint. Now there are some other differences with this figure, some minor differences, mainly with the paint apps. You'll notice looking at the two figures that this new Red Hood figure has darker colors. Basically his coat is almost black, as opposed to on the Joker figure it's a gray color, and then his pants are a little bit darker. You also notice on the feet, he's got, on his shoes, he's got basically some white on it, whereas on the Joker figure it's all black. Now I don't know, I don't remember familiar enough with the actual video game if the Red Hood had these minor differences like the white on the shoes and stuff as opposed to the Joker, or if that's just something they added for the figure itself to make it stand apart a little bit. But as far as articulation and everything goes, these figures are exactly the same. And as I mentioned, the head on the Red Hood, the cape is attached to the head, or it looks like it's glued on there. You might be able to pry the cape off if you really wanted to, but it's basically one piece. And the cape itself is that same kind of soft, flexible vinyl material that we typically see. Now, if you like the darker colors and everything for this Red Hood skull or sculpt, and you wanted to have this as your Joker figure, you can take the head off of the Joker figure and it'll fit. He kind of is, the way the neck is sculpted, he's kind of looking down on this when you put the Joker head on there, but for the most part it works. So if you like the darker colors and everything, you want an actual Joker figure, you can take the Joker head and stick it on there. Okay, so moving on to the Deathstroke figure. So again, we're looking at the exact same sculpt on the figure. The bodies on these two figures are exactly the same. And in fact, the paint apps, for the most part, from what I can tell, are pretty much identical as well. Same accessories, same everything, except for the only difference is with the head sculpt. And so with this new figure, we have the unmasked head of Slade Wilson, basically. Which is nicely done. There's a lot of nice detail on this head sculpt. I think they've done a good job. He's got some dirt and stuff on his face. I like how they've got the eyepiece, eye patch over his head, but you got the stripes that go all the way around his head and everything, and kind of you can see like the indent where the straps are pushing in on his hair, which I think is really nice. So I think they've done a really good job with the overall look of this head sculpt for Slade Wilson. Now, with the head, it doesn't look like he has a neck. I mean, the armor kind of bunches up on his neck. So I will say it does look kind of funny that he doesn't have a neck, but I mean, it's just because he's got the armor on. So I don't think that's a big deal. I guess I would say that the mask version, the head looks a little better on the mask version as far as fitting on the body. But I still, like I said, I think they've done a good job with the head sculpt on this unmasked Slade Wilson. Okay, so we're going to take a look now at the third figure in the set, and this is the one that probably most of you are buying the set for. It's the Copperhead figure. As of right now, at least, this is the only way to get Copperhead is in this 3-pack, and it is a new figure. In fact, probably one of the most articulated female figures I've seen DC Collectibles do, and they've actually done something very unique that I've never seen done before with a figure with the midsection, and I'll go over that in just a moment. But first, let's just kind of look at the details on the figure. I think they've done, for the most part, a pretty nice job with the paint apps on this one. You've got some nice detailing there on the chest with her tattoos. Now, I will say that it looks a little funny to me, the area underneath her tattoos where the skin is exposed between the tattoo and her top. I can't tell if that's like paint smudges or if it's supposed to be dirt on the figure, but it looks a little funny to me. But other than that, I think, like I said, pretty nice details with the tattoos and everything. Again, on our forearms, you can kind of see some dirt. I'm assuming that's dirt, not paint smudges, but I can't be 100% sure. I'm not sure if she's like kind of dirty looking in the video game or not. And it doesn't bother me on the arm, but just there on the chest area, it looks kind of funny. I do like the detailing on her outfit. She's got the line work and then some nice washes to give it that kind of leather snakeskin look, especially like on the back. I think they've done a good job. And then with her hair, again, I think they've done a nice job with the sculpting of the hair and the face, giving it some wash effects. She's got the darkened in areas around her eyes, the dark kind of lipstick and everything. So I think the figure looks very good for what from what you see in the video game. I also like on her arms, the armor pieces with the claws. I think they've done a good job with the paint apps here. You've got the metallic paint with some looks like some brown rust or maybe old dried up blood or something on those armor pieces on her arms, which I think look good. And then finally she's got this tassel piece that hangs off her waist, and it's just that kind of soft rubbery material like we see with the capes and everything. I wouldn't pull on it too hard because you might pull it off. It's attached on there pretty good, but if you pulled on it, it would probably pull off. Now, I do want to point out there is one little area where it's just definitely a paint blemish on my figure. That's on her backside, near her waist. She's got this little brown paint splotch, which is probably just unique to my figure, but just wanted to point that out. So the figure is pretty tall. She stands at just about 7 inches, almost exactly. She is roughly about the same height as the Arkham Origins Batman figure, which you can see him standing here. I'm not sure if how accurate that is to the video game. I'm not sure how tall she is to Batman in the video game. So I can't say if it's completely accurate, but I think for the most part they look good together. Okay, so articulation on this figure is pretty good. As I mentioned before, it's one of the more articulated female figures I've seen DC Collectibles do. The figure does not come with any accessories, so it's good that they've given her decent articulation, especially since she's kind of an acrobat type fighter and everything. So you can get her in some good fight poses and stuff, which I like. The head is just on your typical ball joint like you see with most DC Collectibles. She can look left and right. She has some down movement. She can't really look up too much, which is a little disappointing. So it kind of limits crouching poses that you can put her in. It would have been nice if they had given her a hinge so that she could look up more. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joints. She's got good rotation. She's got the bicep swivel. She has a double hinged elbow, which is nice. And then she does also have wrist articulation. Now, you'll want to note that the armor piece that goes over her wrist is not articulated, but it's a separate piece from the arm and the wrist, and so she does actually have wrist articulation. She can swivel the wrist, and then she can do her wrist down some. Can't really do it up because of the armor piece that goes over the wrist, but she does have down movement there with that hinge. Then she has a midsection swivel under her breast and some up and down movement. Now this is where it gets really kind of unique, and I've really never seen this done before with a figure, but she does have an ab crunch type joint, it feels like, but they've basically used this soft kind of rubber material for her lower midsection on the torso. And it's that same kind of material like we've seen with on the Anarchy figure from this line. So it's a very soft material there, which, like I said, I've never seen done for a midsection joint. So it hides the joint, but she does have, it feels like a bending. So she can definitely bend there at the torso, and she's got a lot of flexibility there. Now, I don't know if there's a danger that could get stretched out over time, or what. So I don't how good that is or not. Time will tell, but I do think it's kind of unique, and I like to see them experimenting with ways to make figures more articulated, and yet still look good without a bunch of ugly joints and stuff. So kudos to DC Collectibles for doing trying something like that. Legs are ball joints, so she can do the splits. She can get her leg out pretty good, and then kind of out and back like you normally can with a DC Collectibles figure. She's got the thigh swivel. She has double jointed knees, so she's got good bending at the knee. She does not have a swivel at the boot cuff, unfortunately, but she does have ankle pivots. So she's got the up and down and the pivot motion on the ankles. And then her foot has one peg hole on the bottom. Okay, so that's my review. Now normally, when we get these kind of multi-packs where you have to buy two figures that you've already gotten to get the one figure that's never been released, I'm not a huge fan of that. But I will say, at least with this set, I'm glad that we've, even though the Deathstroke and the Joker figure are for the most part, the same figures we got previously released, they're different enough that they kind of are unique figures in their own right. The maskless Slade Wilson head is a nice look for the character, and it's a really nice head sculpt, and the red hood, that is a different look for the Joker. So again, even though you're technically body wise and sculpt wise and everything, you previously had these figures, and I might not buy these figures normally. Like I might not have spent the money to buy a red hood normally as on a single card or another Deathstroke figure, even though it's a really good Deathstroke figure. The sculpt for this Deathstroke is probably one of the best figures DC Collectibles has done, but I would have probably been content with the mass version. But again, to get the Copperhead, I'm glad at least they've varied up the other two figures enough that they're kind of unique in their own right. So this particular case of having to buy two figures that I already have doesn't really bother me. And the Copperhead figure I think is really nice. I think they did a nice job with it. You can get her in some pretty decent poses. Like I said, a neck joint, hinge joint on the neck so she could look up, so you could get her in some more like crouching type poses would have been nice. I will also say the joints on her knees are kind of loose, at least on my figure, so that's something to look out for. And then one other thing I want to warn you about is when you're taking the figures out of the packaging, be careful when you take out the Deathstroke figure, because that sheath kind of gets stuck in the plastic tray and it can pull off easily. It's just glued on his back, so just be careful when you're taking the figure out and you don't pull that off the belt. This set is hitting shelves at comic and specialty shops now. It's probably going to run you around $50, which isn't too bad for 3 figures. And so if you want to pick her up, start checking now. That's my review. Leave a comment, like if you like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll check you later.